All right, this is the ESPC podcast, NFL sports betting podcast, where every podcast is a business meeting with a specific purpose and a specific outcome. So the purpose is to make money. And I have an MBA, I have securities licenses, clients for decades, net worth $50 million and above. So I use business and financial concepts in predicting the outcome of football games. We've been insanely profitable. Last week, we were 70%, $9,500. And we're the only podcast that, two things, right? We track everything. We're transparent, give you the whys, and we admit when we're wrong, right? So the podcast before this was the Hawthorne effect. Whatever you track and you measure, you improve its performance by 10 to 20%. But the thing about sports betting is collaborative. And if you're the smartest person in any particular room, you're in the wrong room. So I have somebody who's smarter than I am, who's a savvy better. He wrote a great book, and we've hit it off, and we're collaborating, right? It's crazy to have an ego. There's always somebody who has more money, who's faster, who's this and that. So why not work together? That's how we feel about things. So I got the great Walter Will. Mr. Will, thank you for helping me out. Thanks for joining him. And like Michael Scott from The Office, I'm not superstitious, but I am stitious. And you were on the podcast last time. You were 9-2, 80%, highest level of probability is 80%. That's insane. Nobody does that. That's elite. 52.5% is break even. 59%, you can live in Vegas. And the first time on the podcast, you're in the 80%. And the NFL, which is the toughest to predict. Thank you for helping me out, Mr. Walter Will.
Well, that was a good week. Let's hope this week is similar. This is one of the weeks in the NFL. I looked at the games, and my analyst is pretty. This is one. You look at all these games, and these are going to be some make or break games for coaches and for teams. We're going to really find out who the real teams are and who the real teams aren't. There's a lot of question marks. We know for sure that I think we know for sure that Kansas City and Baltimore are real teams. I think the rest of the league, and I mean everybody, including Minnesota, we don't know how good or bad they are yet. They look good now, but we've seen teams go 9-0, then finish 10-7. So let's see what happens this week. This is going to be a very interesting week in football.
Right. And I remember what first job I had, there was this old white guy, Stan, really nice guy. And I guess, not to get old or political, but it was like a suburban nice guy who was willing to help Stan. He was like, you have to, in life, to be successful, you have to measure the man. And in investing, my daytime job, there's two ways to invest. There's fundamental analysis and there's technical analysis. Nobody's ever gotten rich with technical analysis, but people have gotten rich fundamental analysis. So in football, especially the NFL, it's evaluating the management team. There's a great article on the refs. It's not illegal for a ref to make a bad call on purpose if it makes the league money. That's a fiduciary responsibility. That's why Goodell changed the designation of the NFL. That's like the WWF. It's an entertainment company. It's a commercial real estate company. So there's a lot of things going on. And I'll put a link to the article in the Athletic about the refs, how the refs work. And it's crazy because I was talking to Jim Coventry, national champion fantasy guy. He's helping us in the circuit contest, which we're 13-10. So we're in really good shape there as well. And he was saying, we text each other at the same time. I said, it takes 5 to 6 weeks to evaluate a team, 4 to 6 weeks. He says 5 weeks. And here we go. I love being spontaneous. And Mr. Will is exactly on it, man. We're in week 6 and we're figuring out who's the measure of the man. There's cheap teams. And I'll tell you a story real quick before we get into it. as a senior in high school in Tampa, Florida, as a hurricane goes down there. It was about 100 degrees, 90% humidity. And my friend Mike Stover, he's like, man, can you help me caddy Tampa Palms Golf Course, Hugh Culverhouse? So Hugh Culverhouse was interviewing Buddy Ryan to be the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And even though he ended up being a billionaire, right? Hugh Culverhouse, when he died, he had 4 mistresses and his wife. He gave his wife $20 million. He gave each mistress $40 million. He gave each kid $20 million. And he says, son, he was an old racist guy from Alabama, Bear Bryant guy. He says, son, you got to work hard in life. I'm not going to tip you even though it's hot, but I'm going to give you my business card. I'm the top tax attorney, corporate attorney in the country. You can call me at any time and I'll answer your question. And I said, well, I'm going to ask you a question right now. Are the Bucks losing on purpose? He gave me an answer about the per capita income, that it did not make financial sense for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to make the playoffs because of labor costs. And he didn't want to indulge coaches with expensive backups, right? He was a tax attorney. He was a tax guy, real, old school conservative guy. So fast forward 30 years, that was 1990, 2024. That's still going on in the NFL, right? Johnson, who just fired Saleh, he hired Saleh with no coaching experience because he was the cheapest guy. So for us, we're not casting aspersions on anybody. We're analyzing the situation. So like Elon Musk says, we get to the truth, we get close to the truth to predict outcome. And as we go through the games again, it's very, very clear the teams who don't want to win, so-called tanking, teams that want to make the playoffs, and teams, like Mr. Walter Will said, they don't know. They don't know what's going on now or going on yet. All right?
Yep.
So first game, got any first words before we get into it, Mr. Walter Will?
I said let's get into it. Like I said before, this is going to be there's some analysts we should definitely put on some of these games. It might take we should use the time wisely. Some of these games I do think are make or break games for two coaches.
Absolutely.
And for definitely one quarterback.
Right. So if you're using 6 weeks as the evaluation period, like Bill Belichick used to say, 6 weeks, we play vanilla, and then we'll start game planning after 6 weeks. So we're going to share the spreadsheet here. First game we're going to look at is Thursday Night Football in Seattle. Coach McDonald from the Harbaugh. I'll have a bubble chart next time we're here so I can connect the dots, like doing a business deal and trying to get a sale. What triggers the decision makers? But how incestuous it is, how they all work like the mafias and they all just hire each other, like Trump only hires John Jr., blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
So McDonald against Shanahan. Shanahan is from the Andy Reid, John Gruden mafia, where you got LaFleur, Mike LaFleur, Matt LaFleur. You got McVay, been to a Super Bowl, won a Super Bowl. They all get together and they all run different flavors of the West Coast offense. Division games are different. They count for 2. These are old school guys. The games are different because they game plan extra. So they know every single thing there is to know about each other. That's why these games are different. I like Seattle plus the 3.5. Home teams on Thursday night cover high percentage of the time. I like it under 49 because it's a different game plan. Salesmen think short term, businessmen and women think long term. Long term thinking is higher level thinking, right? So McDonald, he went to national title. They're thinking Super Bowls with the Harbaughs. Shanahan has been to 2 Super Bowls, and his dad won 2 Super Bowls. What does that mean? This is going to be a conservative game. Save the defense. Save the defense's legs. That means running the ball, not scoring quick, so the defense has rest. So I like it under 49. What do you think, Mr. Walter Will?
this is a game I don't have a real strong opinion about. I don't know if the 49ers are as good as they were. I don't know if the Seattle is as good as people think they are. If I was to play this game, I would not play the total because I don't play a lot of totals to begin with. But if I were to side this game, the only way I would side this game, and this is one recommendation I give to people: buy a point. This is a game. Don't buy a
Right.
half a point. Buy a point. I would buy the 4.5. I don't like parlays. I stated that in the past, but if you didn't see it in the
Right.
past, I think parlays are a bad bet. But I don't think buying a point is a bad bet, especially on a number as key as 3.5 and 4.5, because you can always backdoor a spread at 4. People always say, "Well, 3.5, I'm good because a field goal." But a field goal is only good if the game's tied and you get beat by a field goal. A field goal is
Right.
no good if you're down, 30 to 27 or 30 to 19, and you got to cover a spread on a backdoor cover. So I would buy a point and a half. I'm sorry, I would buy a point to 4.5, and I would take Seattle if I were to play the game.
Right. So you got to look at what the key numbers are: 3, 7, 10, 17. And in a division game, if say Seattle is down by 10 against the Giants, they might fold their tents and say, okay, we got a division game next week. This week they're throwing Hail Marys, they're doing hook and ladders, they're trying to get a miracle win. And that's how you get these backdoor covers in the division games. Like you're saying, by the point, be a conservative investor. You gotta be careful with money. You got inflation, whatever. Just the mindset. All right. So that's
Plus, don't forget in division games, point differentials in
right.
case there's a tiebreaker. I mean, it could be a difference of you hosting a game or going on the road in a game. You don't know.
All right. And one of my pet peeves is people giving out picks. So what's your record, right? Why should I trust you? With us specifically, we're 17 and 7 last week. That is, let's see here, 70%, which is elite. All right. So that's the value of the information we're giving you on this podcast. The Jaguars are in London, and the owner of the Jaguars, Mr. Khan, is from London. He tells the coach to save their best players. So this is also something that I've got confirmation, because I really didn't believe it as I did research, but I got confirmation from coaches and from players. The teams high plays, they put things in their back pocket. So in training camp, they run plays, they have a chart of their best plays, they have the chart of their best defensive schemes, and they do not apply them in every game. And I'm like, you know what? They shouldn't charge people for every game. You're not gonna go all out all the time. So the Jaguars always say their best plays, their best game plan for the owner. He wants to win. Going back to London, his old stopping grounds. Again, per capita income. So per capita income in Tampa Bay, Jacksonville, Miami's getting up. It's low. So from a money standpoint, from a bean count, they're making a lot of money, but from a bean counter standpoint, these people want to be structurally, fundamentally sound with money, regardless of how much money they're making, right? And that's how we do this on the podcast. So the Jaguars, instead of having a home game, they're creating scarcity, they're creating commercial real estate thing like LA Live, so on and so forth. All these stadiums are now entertainment compounds, and they build condos, whatever. I digress. But that's his business model. So he's taking one game out of Jacksonville to London. The head coach knows he has to have his best schemes, his best plays, because the owner wants to win this game. So I like the Jacksonville Jaguars. I remember when everybody was the coach and I picked Jacksonville. I was the only one in the country who picked Jacksonville, because that's what everybody does, right? He says it's the best place for Michigan. He did the same thing for London. So this is a London game. Give me the Jaguars plus the 2 points. It's going to be under 44.5. It's almost like when somebody makes a lot of money, they get more conservative. And it seems like the NFL, they're doing a lot of things by the numbers as far as being super conservative. So what does it mean? We're flying to London in long flights. You don't want to get your players hurt. What you want to do is you want to run a clock. You want to save your defense's legs because of the long fight. So give me the under. Give me under 44.5, Jaguars +2. What do you think, Walter Will?
So this is one of the games I was talking about. This is either I think if Jacksonville loses, it's goodbye to Doug Peterson. Um,
Oh,
I,
yeah.
I truly believe that. And
Yes.
once again, it's also a game where, as spoke about earlier, we don't know how bad Jacksonville is. They could easily be 3-2, by the way, too. I mean, they could
Right.
be. And we don't know how good Chicago is, or if they're still in this kind of in between mode. We really don't know. It's a game I'm going to leave alone. The only thing that I would lean toward in this game is I think this game's going to go over the number. Um,
Okay.
I think there's some credence. I know you like the under here, but I think there's some credence to what you said about Jacksonville having some plays in their back pocket. I also think that Caleb Williams is getting better each week. The team's starting to believe in him quite a bit, and I think that this could end up being this. I wouldn't be surprised if this game ends up being a shootout. Believe it or not, um, I would lean toward the over in this game if I was to make a play at
Right.
all. Yeah.
Right. I remember in Hard Knocks, Eberhouse, great coach, does more with less. He's from the Pinkel tree. Don James, you get Pinkel. And Pinkel won the SEC East, doing some great coaching, or SEC West twice. Eberhouse was defensive coordinator. He goes to Indianapolis, gets into the playoffs. Smart guy. 3-year program. He's a Nick Saban guy. He played for Nick Saban at Kansas State. Again, we study the coaches and the players because this is fundamental analysis. Same way you study a CEO of a company, the management of the company, the corporate governance, to find out whether you're going to invest in that company or not. So what they're doing is they're playing vanilla, like Purdy last year. They only had half the field, but Caleb Williams is like Magic Johnson, and I think it's both, but what is your opinion on this? What's more important, the X's and O's or the Jimmys and the Joes? Because I think the offense is to the next level because of the Jimmys and the Joes. You DJ Moore, the guy from Washington that DeBoer had, that guy was phenomenal. I thought he was great over there in the Pac-12 last year. Didn't get a lot of press, but that guy is off the chain. Can't pronounce his last name, but he's a great receiver. And then you have the guy coming in from the Chargers. So he has a lot of weapons. He has a defensive mastermind. He's a defensive coach, right? And then Peterson with Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence and Caleb Williams, for me, are two sides of the same coin. Overhyped guys who never really won anything, just threw to a wide open receiver system guys who haven't proven anything yet in the NFL. So what do you think is most important, Mr. Will? The Jimmys and the Joes or the X's and O's?
I think the Jimmys and the Joes are always the most important thing. At the end of the day, look at if you look at football, baseball, you have all the analytics. You can be a complete genius, but you got to have guys who can execute. And
Right.
The bottom line is the players have to execute a game plan. If they can't, it's up to the coach to adapt. The greatest adapter probably of all time was Lou Holtz at halftime. If Lou Holtz was trailing at halftime, he'd almost go to the bank and bet on this team to win in the second half or second half spread. Bill Belichick, great halftime coach, of course, but they can't even save themselves sometimes if they don't have the horses. So I like back to this game. I like the fact that Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars scored 37 points last game. I like the fact that Chicago scored points last game, and Doug Peterson's fighting for his life.
Right.
Let's see what happens. It might be a really exciting game.
Right.
That's just my opinion.
Yes, this is not a cult, so you're free to disagree.
Yeah.
And then a few podcasts, we'll have a third person to kind of break the tie.
Sure. Yeah.
So the audience always wins, right? Because it's decision science. The person with the best information wins. All right. So the Ravens. I got him -6 under 52. And sometimes you just have to put your ego at the door. So I have a guy who really knows, like Mr. Will, who knows how to pick games. And for Circa, we have 5 picks for Circa. He gives me one every week. The one he gave me right off the bat was the Ravens. I'm going to research the game, but basically blindly, I'm betting the Ravens based on what he said. Okay. Now I know Kingsbury always starts out fast, even at Texas Tech, and then tanks at the end of the season. Same thing happened in Arizona all the time. All the years he was with Arizona, he started fast, then lost serious games late. He runs the air raid, the receiver, the quarterback read the defense independent of each other. For quarterback who made 3 first downs with his legs, that team wins 70% of the time. And that's what Jalen Daniels is doing. However, he's going against a Super Bowl champion, legit defensive coordinator, Todd Monken. Man, you want to talk about a guy who's married to football. He's the offensive coordinator for your Ravens. His brother's the coach at Army. He just got done winning close to 3 national championships with those Georgia Bulldogs. Those dogs can't hunt. So talking about a brother mastermind now in game 6. I like it -6. I like it under 52 because, again, salesmen think short term, businessmen and women think long term. So what the Ravens want to do is they want to run the ball. It's a Harbaugh family tradition. That's how Michigan won the national title last year, running the football, playing defense, but you have to rest the defense. They can't be on the field all game long. So they're going to do some ball control. I still think they cover the 6, like Jim is saying, but I like it under 52. What do you think, Mr. Will?
I'm going to go ahead and, believe it or not, everything I've warned against a trap line like 6. Well, this game opened at 6.5, so it's a
Right.
trap line. I 99 times out of 100 play the dog, so I probably should just lay out of this game. I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm definitely going to agree with you on this one. I think Baltimore, they've had 5 games that are all like tearjerkers. I mean, they've been unbelievable games. I think they put it all together in this game and put together a complete game, and I think they handily cover the spread. I think they're going to give Jaden Daniels a very, very difficult time. Even though it's an interstate, basically, it's a Baltimore and Washington. What doesn't matter, baseball, you throw the records out the books, whatever it is. Washington, Philadelphia, right. Any of these games in that area, they're big rivalries. I know that Washington's pumped up; they're playing great. I think Baltimore puts it all together, gets an easy one, and I think this game. I think this game's over by the end of the third quarter. I think Baltimore's going to handle them pretty easily.
Yeah, and it's a coaching mismatch too. Kingsbury, the air raid's a very simple offense. They only really have like 4 passing plays. Quarterback comes to the line with 2 plays, a running play and a pass play. If there's 7 guys on the line, you're going to run it. If there's 8, you're going to throw it. Very simple offense. And Harbaugh's going to be all over it. And speaking of the Harbaughs, yeah.
And I go back to the Giants and Washington game. It was actually one of the games that I lost.
Right.
When I went 9-2 in week 2, I had the Giants and I barely lost that game. But the Giants went up and down the field. They just kicked. They couldn't make they just kicked. I think they kicked 6 field goals or 7 field goals when they lost the game. Right. If Baltimore converts a couple of red zone plays, you're looking at a 20-6, 20-10 game, midway through the third quarter, and then maybe Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson just doing a long drive and putting it to rest. Could we get back?
You make a very good point.
Could we get backdoored? Yeah, we could, but I think they're going to have a big enough lead where they're going to make it very hard.
You make a great point as far as the Giants being able to run on them, should have won that game, and analytics, people get this wrong. Analytics does not work in football. And the reason I say that is because I have a client, can't talk about my client's name, but I have a client who has a World Series ring with the St. Louis Cardinals doing analytics. And she will not take any NFL clients because there's too many variables for it to be mathematically viable. And she has a math degree from MIT in a World Series ring. So I'm going to defer to her. And I made a lot of money doing that. So even though, all right, key statistics are important, like if quarterback makes 3 first downs with their legs, that team will win 70% of the time. However, it can't be the end all be all. But you're looking at a situation where the Carolina Panthers, when you look at that game, they were going 6 yards a carry. All right. 6 yards a carry. And there's something wrong with the run defense with Washington. And then when Coach Quinn, who is a disciple of Pete Carroll, that Pete Carroll Mafia, right? And the coach of Washington and Brendan Carroll and Brian Belichick. Quinn never fixes defensive problems. He hasn't fixed defensive problems in a decade. Was the head coach for Atlanta. The Cowboys have their own analysts, and now he's the head coach of Washington. I don't think he's going to fix that. He met his match with the Harbaugh family. So they're not going to be able to stop the run. So I like that under 52. All right. Okay. Next game we're going to look at is your Arizona Cardinals. I got them +5, under 47. They're like what Mr. Will is talking about as far as you're talking about a head coach, cheap franchise, the Arizona Cardinals, the Bidwells, old school. They stole, we'll talk about the Breeders' Cup in a little bit, but the Bidwells sold 5 racetracks to the Stronach family, good old Belinda Stronach.
That's right.
with a cash and so forth. Very cheap, family-owned team. And they hired the cheapest coach possible, put him in a tough situation, and now they're giving the guy a hard time. I remember when Vrabel, his general manager, said he was sick because he knew he was going to get fired with that family-owned team. And the Arizona Cardinal GM, his friend, did the same thing. They got FMLA because they were going to fire. It was a cheap team, like firing people. Same thing with the Jets. So that's what's going on with Jonathan Gannon there. He's 16. But I like the way they're playing. They're playing against a cheap city-owned team. So this team, Green Bay Packers, are owned by the city. And they have a very distinct Andy Reid-esque plan of running that football, like we saw Monday night, to save the defense's legs long-term. That's why I think Arizona can cover the 5 points, and that's why I think it's under 47. What do you think, Mr. Will?
This is a game I'm 100% going to lay out of. These are two teams. I have no clue how good or bad either one of them are. Right. Arizona always seems to be playing catch up. Green Bay has not looked as good as they looked at the end of last year. I don't know if, how healthy the entire team is. It's a no. This game's a big no play for me. I have no opinion in this game whatsoever.
What I like about Green Bay is they have a good operation, they have a good system, and they have their scouting system, they have their process, they know the way the trajectory of the season goes, and I make money following along. But that's the Arizona Cardinals +5 under 47. Now, to me, let me know what you think, Mr. Walter Will. Looking at the management, Antonio Pierce and Gerard Mayo are the same guy to me.
Very simple.
Really smart players that got into coaching. They were hired because they were the cheapest option available. You have unscrupulous owners. The owners are owned by 100 people, 80 which must maintain themselves anonymous. The management stole $30 million. Walter Will or Josh Mee stole $30 million. We would be in jail. The accounting department for the Raiders are walking around. Goodell made Mark Davis fire those people. I hate nepotism. Nepotism can work sometimes, doesn't work all the time. Complete disaster. The league takes over the team. They have kind of like the management, and they get the cheapest coach available, Antonio Pierce, who had personality issues as a assistant coach, both college places he was. Good old Lovie Smith at Illinois, and then he had problems with Herm Edwards. So he goes with the Raiders, and next thing you know, he's the head coach.
Yep.
and he's ruling by fear. It doesn't seem. I was there in Tampa when I owned my restaurant. They were all coming in there, and Rocky Morris became the head coach. His problem was that he couldn't get along with people. He didn't network to get the right coaches, even though he's a genius. He had problems. Supposedly, he learned how to be a head coach with McVay. He's copying McVay, trying to be a nice guy, create a culture. Let's see what happens there. There's already infighting with the Pats, right? Kraft got himself in a lot of problems financially. He married a young girl, and then he did a couple of nebulous, questionable business moves with the soccer team at Gillette Stadium. But I digress. Must-game situation for them. This is a big problem, and I said it in the AFC, an NFC preview podcast with Agent Rob, top agent in FIFA and Formula One. We'll have him in one of these weeks to break ties. These young coaches, they have to have a plan for breaking a losing streak. That's what makes a great manager in baseball. That's what makes great coaches in football. It's how do you get out of the team, out of a funk, out of losing streaks. Now they're going to start to work the quarterback, Drake, whatever, Jacoby Brissett. They are in a desperate situation, threatening people's jobs. Houston, who made them world beaters? I call them an ESPN team, right? They got one guy on defense, one guy on offense. They're in the worst division in history. That's why it gives them a shot. And they're being hyped up. They're overhyped. And I love it, right? Because it gets us past that key number. If I can get the Pats at home in a desperate situation, they still have full hope. They haven't given up yet to play that defensive style, run the ball, keep things in front of you. Don't let Stroud get the big play. I still think Houston has more talent with their degenerate nepotism order. They have more talent than the Pats right now because Bill Belichick was a great defensive coordinator. He was a horrible head of scouting and a horrible GM. All right. He didn't win. He has a 20% winning percentage without Brady and without Vinny Testaverde for that 1 year. All right. So Gerard Mayo, this is the guy he learned from. That without Brady, he was 20%. So what does Gerard Mayo know? I know he's 1-4 and infighting. Oakland A's won titles with infighting. The problem is when it gets public. That means that you're sloppy. You're being unprofessional, where you're letting inside feelings and information get out to the public. So I think they're going to give a false hope, run the ball, run clock, cut the game in half, lose, but cover, especially if it's over the key number of 7.5 at home. And because of that style, that's all Gerard Mayo knows, defensive guy, I like it under the 38. What do you think, Mr. Walter Will?
This game here, it's one of my biggest rules of gambling is I don't back teams who can't score. The Patriots have a very, very difficult time scoring. They play hard. Houston can score. I don't like lane 7. To me, it's a no play. I wish you well in the game. You're probably on the right side. But if you lost 13-3, I wouldn't be surprised. Look at the game last week. They lost 15-10, and they should have won the game. They really should have.
Right.
They could be 3-2 as well. I wish they could score, Josh. What can I tell you? I wish I knew they could score I wish I could just say with authority they could score 18 points or more. I would love them if I knew they were going to score 18 points. I just don't know if they can, and that's why I'm laying out of the game.
Right. Bobby Slovic seems like he's going to be a head coach. He's the offensive coordinator for Houston. The strategic guys, when they know they only have to score 13, 17 points to win this game, he's going to hold a lot of things in his back pocket. They're going to tell C.J. Stroud, don't get us beat, don't turn the ball over. And I think this game will finish 13-6. Your Houston Texans. I call it the nepotism game of the week. If you can't sleep, record this game, watch it. By the second quarter, you will be sleeping.
Probably.
All right.
Yeah, there you
Now,
go.
this game, I call it a marginal utility game. These guys are good. All right. So, Djokovic, the greatest tennis player of all time, he was 200th in the world. He improves his stroke percentage 0.002. He becomes the greatest player of all time. Believe me, there's not a huge difference between Peter and Derek Carr, especially running that offense, a specific game plan. Jeter, I love Jeter over there at Fresno State. He's a gamer. He pulled some games out from Fresno State that they shouldn't have won. He's a savvy quarterback. He's a young guy. And if a quarterback can make 3 first downs with his legs, that team wins 70% of the time. And he can run and get those first down that Derek Carr get. Derek Carr also, again, personality issue. He's fighting with all his receivers, his talented receivers. The receivers in the whole offense like this guy better. Now, the Saints have 2 starters missing on the offensive line. What that means is, again, marginal utility. All these guys are good. That means these are good run blockers. The reason they're not starters is because they cannot pass block. Right? And you got a defensive coach, Mr. Dennis Allen. But I see this game going over 41. I think the Saints can cover the 3.5, 4, if not win. The Bucs are on the road. All of them had to evacuate and move to hotels in Orlando. They've been in New Orleans for a while. The rest will give them the call, sympathy, national tragedy. But I like the Saints to cover because I think Vegas is taking advantage of people, overhyping this. And watch this number even go up to like +6, making a big deal, ESPN, about Derek Carr, when it doesn't really matter. Again, this is the division game. It counts for 2. They've been studying each other all summer long, and it's an ego thing. And these guys get millions and millions of dollars to coach. Todd Bowles is a Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator. Dennis Allen is a smart defensive guy. So I like this game to be close. I like it over 41. The average score in an NFL game is 45. At 41, that's a little low. What do you think, Walter? Well,
I love the Saints in this game. I agree with you. I really like the Saints a lot in this game, because I like them so much. Once again, here we are at a spread as of today, which is Wednesday at 3.5. I'd wait in the week to see if it goes up. I agree with you. It probably does get pumped up to 4.5 or 5.
right.
If it stays at 3.5, I have no problem buying a point to 4.5. But I love the Saints in this game. That's too many points to give a division rival at home. And I don't think that Tampa Bay is that good. I think they're a solid team, but I don't think they're a great team. They're an above average team. I think the Saints are still an above average team. Home field, New Orleans. I like the quarterback replacement as well. Yeah, give me the Saints plus the points in this game. Absolutely.
And unbeknownst to each other, we're both picking the same team. The audience always win, man. Bet double on that one. Me and Walter will agree without conferring. Now, the thing about Baker Mayfield is funny because he seems like Queensberry to me, and they all come from that Mike Leach tree, their airway. They get hot and cold. But long term, I like betting against him. I don't think Baker Mayfield can stay hot. And it's funny because he was coached by Lincoln Riley in college, and Queensberry is Lincoln Riley's best friend. And they all both run that air raid. So I see them long term. I agree with Mr. Walter Will. Now you got the Cleveland Clowns. Again, you're talking about another, he's like Johnson for the Jets. He's another criminal CEO, billionaire, owner of the Browns. Haslam, he's constantly, if he was Walter Will or I, we'd be in jail for 30 years. Well, he's always committing massive fraud, basically a gangster. He's the owner of the Cleveland Clowns, and their quarterback, degenerate, might not make it the whole season, Deshaun Watson. And it's funny, right? His coach at college, Dallas Sweeney, Holy Roller. Massive hypocrisy, but I digress. So what does that mean in sports betting? What does that mean in football? Josh, I don't care about this guy's personal life. Well, it's lack of discipline, it's lack of details. And that's why he's having problems right now. I don't think he can concentrate. It seems like Jameis Winston is politicking to eventually be the starting quarterback there. The guys like him there. I think Stefanowski, who, again, he has a lot of emotional control. Zimmer, who's now the defensive coordinator with Minnesota, threw a coffee cup at his head. I would have left. I would have quit. He stayed there with the Minnesota Vikings as a water guy, eventually became the offensive coordinator, and now he's a head coach, but he's had zero success without Bill Callahan, as his offensive line coach, who went with his son to Tennessee. He seems clueless on offense. Schwartz. He's hanging in there, and he's keeping his defense in the game. So what's happening here is an overreaction, though, because the Clowns are talented. Again, to Walter Will's point, we're talking about a desperate team of 1-4, and you're talking about a very talented quarterback in Deshaun Watson, who's playing maybe for his career because he has those off the field issues. You can Google it. What he did, he harassed women that came to give him massages trying to work for a living. If it was my sister or wife or whatever, I would have gone over there with a baseball bat, taking care of it in a different way. But his victims got a lot of money, and there's another victim out there. And Goodell, all he cares about is PR. But at 9 against the Eagles, and who made the Eagles world beaters? They haven't done anything from the Super Bowl. They lost their 2 coordinators. Howie Roseman is a control freak, controlling their franchise. He ran Andy Reid out of there. He's married to the game of football. In his divorce settlement, if you look it up, he divorced his wife for neglect. Howie Roseman sleeps in the office, lives and dies. So he's really controlling that. Again, with the Eagles at 2-2, Satriani, he's lucky that the Cowboys are kind of down, and that's a weak division. All right. At home against the Clowns, professional teams have pride. They're good. They did not get blown out 2 weeks in a row. So I see this game again being overhyped by there's $3 billion, right, in that New Jersey handle. So those Eagles lines are inflated. I see this going at game time to 10.5, maybe 11. So give me the Clowns plus over the key number of 10. And I like it over 42 because Stefanowski has to prove he can do something on offense. He can think of something and not rely on the Bill Callahans of the world. What do you think, Walter Will?
Okay, so I'm. This is another one of the games I said was a make or break game. If Philadelphia loses, I think the head coach is gone. Goodbye to him.
Hold on for me 1 second. Let me fix the audio here.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Walter Will.
Yeah, I think I think this is one of those games that we're going to get 2 answers. If the Browns play poorly in the first half and are down big, it'll be goodbye to Deshaun Watson for the rest of the season.
Right.
If it's close, they may stick with them for another game. If the Eagles lose, I think the head coach is going to get fired. I really do. So it's a desperate game. I agree with you. I lean for the Browns in this game. I would take the points. I would hope for maybe as long as they're not down big in the first half. I really like their chances a lot. If they are down maybe like by 10 or it's a low scoring first half, like 13-3 or something, maybe hopefully they replace Watson with Winston and the team rallies around Winston. The team just does not like or doesn't support Watson. It's very clear to me. And it's a dangerous bet, but Philadelphia should not be 9.5-point favorites against anybody right now.
Right.
So Cleveland is the play here.
All right. Love it. So those 2 picks, the Saints and the Browns, you can bet double. Because we don't talk about it before because we want to keep things spontaneous and real.
Yes.
We're both on that. Next game we're going to look at are two cheap family-owned teams. Got the Colts, Ursay, right? Nepotism. His dad was the owner of the team. Again, if Walter Will and I did this, we'd be in jail. He was caught with 30,000 ecstasy pills and 2 pounds of cocaine in a hooker in the car. Right? That's Robert Ursay. So what does that mean to us? He's cheap. He's mismanaged his money. He doesn't want to pay for backup. You're lucky they're in that horrible South division where all of the teams are like that. So this is like a race to the bottom game. The Titans, again, nepotism again. They believe in nepotism. They were, and they inherited the team, the owners, and then now they have the son of a coach as their head coach. No coaching experience. He was a mediocre coordinator with the Cleveland Browns. They didn't even make the playoffs last year. But I digress. The Titans are at home. Got to give your fans some false hope. They have problems selling tickets. You're going to get the call. Anthony Richardson's a joke. If he can't read SEC defenses, what makes you think he can read NFL defenses? The inspiration tag and Flacco. The guy's playing with a broken back. He's still in the league. Love Flacco. He comes out there. He can read the defense, get him in the right play, but he can only last so long. You can see his body breaking down already. So it's going to go under 43, division game. They know a lot about each other. They're going to shut each other down. And the refs are going to put their toe on the scale as their fiduciary responsibility for the league. I call this dysfunctional teams. When a team is dysfunctional, I do not lay points. I bet the money line because it's like that drug addict family member for Thanksgiving dinner, right? They say they're going to bring in this beautiful glazed ham for Thanksgiving dinner, right? So what happens? They burn the ham. They stop at the grocery store, bring cookies to Thanksgiving, and you got the $100 because oh, can I borrow $100? No, I'm going to give you $100. No, I'm going to give you the $100. And I know the honey baked ham got burnt, whatever, but you brought cookies. So the Titans are going to bring the cookies. So I'm going to bet them on the money line, and that's a money line Titans at home. Give their fans false hope until tickets later on in the season. Minus 135, under 43. So they have to keep them fresh. Play vanilla, run clock, and keep the legs fresh of your defense. What do you think, Mr. Walter Will?
I can't think of any reason to watch this game other than if you had a wager on it. It's probably the worst game on the schedule.
Right.
It's right up there. It's pretty bad. I'm going to leave it alone. You have an opinion. I have no opinion in this game. It's such a bad game. It just is. Flacco, I could see him putting another decent game together. Tennessee has problems scoring. The Colts aren't any good either. It's a no play for me. I don't even I have so little interest in it. I won't even if I had a bet in it, I wouldn't even want to look at the score during the game. I just tell me when it's over and tell me if I won or not.
Again, another nepotism game. If you have trouble sleeping, take this game. You'll be asleep by the third quarter. One caveat I like to throw in there. I'm very fortunate, lucky, and good. I have coaches who send me messages and we talk about different defenses. I have a college coach who we're talking about 3-3-5 defense. But knowing football and predicting games, half of it, 50% of it is business and financial concepts and math. This game, I prognosticated it on purely business terms. All right. Next game, we got two really good coaches, Super Bowl champion coaches, national title winning coach, the Harbaugh football mafia family against the Bill Belichick, Bill Parcells mafia family, right? With your coach, Sean Payton. Bo Nix has a lot of talent. He's really good from the neck down. From the neck up, he's always had problems. He's figuring out that offense. He scored that touchdown, and then he gets cursed out by Sean Payton, right? Because he totally read it wrong. But still, he has so much talent. The Chargers are completely rebuilding. The book I have in the back, it's about the Greek mafia. The fantasists have to kick up. That's why they're always cheap, always have holdouts, always have problems. Harbaugh's getting his system in there. he's going to focus on the offensive line like he always does, like a Harbaugh family does. Not like he doesn't have the resources that his brother does with the Ravens, because the owner, he pocketed and is in football in the NFL for the right reasons. He's not depending on it to squeeze a penny out of the team or taking loans out on the team, like a lot of these owners do. So the Chargers are still rebuilding. That offensive line is still horrible, even though Harbaugh's a great coach. And man, what's his face? Herbert is running for his life. The Broncos have the highest winning percentage at home in history. They look good against the Raiders. I like them. I know you like these money lines. I like the Broncos on the money line. Super Bowl winning coach. Remember, division games count for 2. Sean Payton neglects his wife, neglects his kids. All he does is watch film. He knows every single little thing there is about the Chargers, and he has a talent advantage. Surtain, he shuts everybody down. Guys playing phenomenal. And quarterback beats 3 first downs with his legs. That team wins 70% of the time. I like what I call the +1 advantage with Bo Nix. So I like the Broncos plus 136 on the money line. And definitely both these coaches believe in running the football. Both these coaches want to keep the payroll down, but they don't have a lot of backups on defense. So they keep the defense fresh, running it to death. So for us, that means under. So give me the Denver Broncos plus 136 on the money line and under total of 35.5, 36, even though it's low. Kind of Vegas is kind of agreeing with me. Average score in an NFL game is 45. What do you think, Walter Will?
I the side here is very hard for me to pick. Denver at home getting points is awfully intriguing. I can see why you're taking them. I can see why you're playing the money line. Bo Nix, look, he's a rookie, so I don't know how much I can trust him. The Chargers are going to be aggressive. They're coming off a bye week. I like the over in this game. It's a bad line. You're gonna give me 35.5 points, and a team coming off a bye week to regroup a little bit with a good quarterback, Herbert, with Sean Payton at home fighting for their lives. 35.5. I just think it's a bad number, and sometimes they put out lines that I think are just bad lines.
Right.
On principle alone, without even thinking about it analytically, it's a bad line. You got to play against a bad line. I'm taking the over and not thinking twice about it. I'm going to leave the side alone, but I'm going to go over in this game, 35.5. With these two coaches, Harbaugh's been known to he can score some points. He's not averse to scoring points, and Sean Payton isn't either. It's a divisional game. It should be hard fought. And look at the other thing I like about overs on a low number like this. You have a rookie quarterback who, let's face it, rookie quarterbacks make tragic mistakes sometimes. You might get a pick six out of this late in the game, or a pick. You very well could, or a key fumble. If too many variables not to take the over in this game, so I have to take the over.
Very good, very good. This is not a cult, right? So, and you learn from this, right? So you create a premise, you track it, and you see the outcome, right? And you can check your thinking. That's one of the great things about sports betting. It sharpens your mind for business and life, so you're not delusional. You don't think you're better than what you really are, and you're dealing with a specific outcome, right? So the teams are 72 to the under. What does that mean? Bill's going to go the other way. His trends are meant to be broken, right?
That's it.
Yeah, it's almost 70% to the under. Highest level probability is 80%. So, hey, a Bronco Charger game is, going to go over at one point. I still think it's under because it's early in the season. It's a divisional game. The second game will be over, right? But we'll track it and we'll see what it is. And once you leave your ego at the door, you learn from it. right? And it's not idle learning, it's learning to make money, a lot of money. That's
That's
why we
it.
pay for vacations. We do good sports betting. All right. So later game in Vegas, uh, man, Antonio Pierce puts himself in a spot. You see it coming a mile away. He's being used, but I digress. When two African American defensive coaches go against each other, the game always goes under. Steelers just put it on the defense. All he does, Coach Tomlin won a Super Bowl. He studied the Citadel. He's a military guy. His games always go under and make a lot of money. I bet every single game of the Steelers under, and I am 4-1. So they're 4-1 to the under. The Raiders again put it on the defense. Type of guy, but he's putting it on the defense. He doesn't have depth. That's what killed Belichick. To play this style, you have to have depth. Now on the other side, Justin Fields, basically a rookie quarterback. If you play that style, you can't commit turnovers. That's what killed me in the Colts game. Flacco comes in there, doesn't commit turnovers, puts him in the right play, scores a couple of touchdowns. Fields commits a couple of dumb turnovers, playing that conservative style, and it killed them. The Raiders are actually 3-2 to the over. They're playing the Steelers, big coaching mismatch. The Raiders offense is completely in disarray. And then Antonio Pierce doesn't know how to manage people. He knows how to yell at people. He knows how to give people tough love. He knows how to make them run stairs. But he doesn't know how to manage a guy like Gardner Minshew, who I thought should have won the Heisman Trophy at Washington State. I think he's a great quarterback, but they do not have a line. When they got rid of Leatherwood, it was so stupid. So Tommy Telesco is doing the best he can over there with that roster. But the Steelers have a better roster. They have a better coach. So look for this game to go under, but it's going to be close. It's going to be 20-17. So I like the Raiders plus the 5 under 38. What do you think, Walter Will?
I like the Raiders a lot in this game. I'm with you. I like the Raiders quite a bit in this game. I think they cover the spread. I think they play the Steelers tough. I think the Steelers are overpriced.
Right.
Josh Fields is still an unproven commodity. Russell Wilson could be laid in the background. They have problems scoring. This is the Raiders. The Raiders are at home. They're coming off not a great week of football last week. I think Chiefs will have them ready. And I anticipate a very hard fought game. And I think that the Raiders will cover the spread.
This is another thing here. Brock Bowers, 28 reception. This guy is a superstar. And he's a changer, game changer in this type of game. Brock Bowers tied in for your Raiders.
Yes, very much.
Atlanta Falcons off a big game, a little bit more rest. Kirk Cousins, is he going to play or is he out against Canales? Again, it's funny. Canales, one of the coaches that helps me with football information, was actually a player at Riverside Community College. Canales was the coach at El Camino College. Fast forward 6 years, David Tepper runs a hedge fund. He's in my world, and he thinks that the intelligence he has in the financial world translates to football, and that he can be the president and general manager of the team like Jerry Jones. It's been a complete disaster. They asked him about, what are you going to do about helping the team win? He's like, oh, we've had 44 concerts and we're making a lot of money. So what is that thing? He doesn't care about winning. He doesn't care about the team. That's why they lack depth. They're a disaster. They basically have a junior college coach against Raheem Morris. But these are professional players. You got Trevor Hubbard. Pro teams did not get blown out 2 in a row, 1-4. I like the Panthers to cover the 6 points. And I'm going to go over the 37. The 37 is way too low of points. Raheem Morris is a great defensive mind, keeping that defense in there, but they're not really that good of a defense as Tampa Bay figured it out. And again, this is a division game. So Canales had to study this team all summer. He has plays. He's an offensive guy too. So he likes coming up with plays It's almost like the Vanderbilt Alabama game. You got Jerry Krill, who had a heart attack on the sidelines. They wouldn't let him coach. He goes back to coach New Mexico State, and again the doctors shut him down. But now he's the analyst at Vanderbilt and came up with plays Alabama had not seen before. So Carolina is going to run some plays that Atlanta hasn't seen before this year to get this game over. And in a division game, man, if I can get this over 7, even better. It's a division game at home. He wants to give his people, the rest are going to help put the toe on the scale for the Panthers to give the fans false hope so they buy tickets later on in the season. One of the worst franchises in sports, but David Tepper, hedge fund guy, making a lot of money. So give me the Panthers +6 over 37. What do you think, Walter Will?
Divisional game, a lot of points to lay. I'm going to pass on the game. Look, Atlanta looks to me like they're a better team, but I don't like laying points on the road in a divisional game when I don't know the status of a quarterback, how healthy he is. And Carolina, once again, another team that has problems scoring. These games, when people, as a gambler, and everybody has their opinion. As a gambler, when you're getting points, it doesn't matter how many points you're getting if you can't score. You could have a very close game and lose 13-0, and you lost by 13 points. And the problem with Carolina is they had the one breakout game against the Raiders with Andy Dalton, but they other than that game, they've had a really, really difficult time scoring. I wish I had more faith in their offense. I would definitely. I want to take the Panthers. I just can't because they can't score, and it's my golden rule. If you can't score, I can't bet on you. So I'll pass on the game.
I like Trevor Hubbard. Trevor Hubbard always had he's great from the neck down, from the neck up, has problems, but he's a phenomenal athlete. So I think get this game over. And I like the different styles. Mr. Will's very selective. And for me, when I pass the Series 7 test, has a 50% failure rate. I'm reading for the test, and I read about arbitrage. And arbitrage is you take a sector and you take 10 stocks from that sector and you invest equal amounts in it. And you want to go 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 and make money. But what I'm doing is arbitrage. And what I'm doing is combining the football coaching trees because they have the same philosophy. So it's basically the same game. So a lot of games repeat themselves. So I bet 10 or more games to get that arbitrage. And that's how I built an edge in consistent profit. But the way Walter Will does it makes money too, right? And it could be a week where I use Mr. Will's strategy, just like I used Jim Covertree's pick. That I'm going to bet money on the Circle pick, the Ravens -6, right? It's very important to leave your ego at the door. This is business. It's not about being who's right or who's wrong. It's making money consistently, right? For mental health reasons.
That's exactly right.
Make it fun, right?
That's right. And listeners and people who watch this should know. Look, I'm not going to go 9-2 every week. I'd like to, but it's not going to happen. There's going to be weeks where I get beat. That's part of the process. But if you're going to beat this game over the long haul, you've got to stick to what you believe are fundamental rules. Right. And if you do it, you will see success in it. And I can't tell you that my golden rule is, I would say, the most important rule. And if you're going to gamble any sport, if the team can't score, don't bet them. That's the bottom line. If you like them, that's a different story. But I've stuck to that rule, and I've found a lot of success using it. So I'll stick to it here. And there's plenty of other games to bet. So
big time.
That's it.
Or use the arbitrage strategy I did. Dallas. Jerry Jones, right? $23 billion, those refineries selling oil to Germany. Brilliant man, but I don't think his intelligence translates to being a really good president of the team and general manager of a team. He has a college mentality. He was a linebackers coach at Arkansas. and defensive linemen were Jerry Jones and Barry Switzer. And Frank Broyles was the coach. And he always said, hey, you win 70% of your games if your quarterback can make 3 first downs with his legs, run the ball, and play defense. College teams think in 2-year cycles. So I encourage people to, you're talking about business and planning and sticking to rules. Jerry Jones in the state of the Cowboys pretty much said it, that he put all his marbles in winning a playoff game last year. He has less resources coming into this year. So these college teams work in 2 years recruiting cycles, 2-year cycles. For Nick Saban, he won a national championship 1 year and then lost in the playoffs the next year and vice versa, right? Dallas takes the same way. So this is kind of a down year for Dallas. Even though they went ahead and they locked up their quarterback. I like him +3. I like him under the 52 points in the total against Detroit. Salesmen think short-term, businessmen think long-term. This is the second year of a 2-year cycle for Detroit Lions. Very, very well organized. Brad Holmes, his mentor is Dick Vermeil. And he consults with him a lot. And they're doing a great job with that team as far as organizational processes are concerned. Even though the coach of that team comes from the Bill Belichick, Dick Saban, football, Bill Parcells mafia in there. That's why he has the coordinator he has. Johnson's a great offensive coordinator. They're keeping things in their back pocket for games later on in the season. McCarthy won the Super Bowl. All right. He's from the Andy Reid football mafia family, the Green Bay Hello Tree. At home, that big stadium, that big offensive line. So give me the Cowboys at home against Detroit. Detroit's a darling team, an ESPN team. Why are you betting them? Oh, I saw ESPN and they're saying they're great. Home favorite against Dallas. Jerry Jones, the influence he has over the league, over the refs. Really, from a business standpoint, the way he's aligning his money, it seems like he wants to buy the whole NFL. He is 10% owner of 15 franchises in the league, right? He owns like 30% of the Kansas City Chiefs and wants them to move into that stadium. If Kansas City doesn't build a stadium. A lot of influence over the referees in this game. So we saw that Thanksgiving time last year. Again, and believing they know the law. Fiduciary responsibility of refs to make the league money. So I like it under the 52.5, under that key number. That's a lot of points for early in the season. With teams that have long-term goals, the Lions have to keep a couple things in their back pocket for division games. So I like Dallas. +3, home dog for Jerry Jones and all that money under 52.5. What do you think, Walter Will?
I really think this game's a mismatch. I like the Lions quite a bit here. Dallas was very lucky to win last week. They've been blown out and they played a good team both times this year. I don't believe in Dak Prescott. I think he was a gigantic waste of money.
Right.
I really do. I have to be honest. And
I think Dak Prescott's quarterback because Jerry Jones is racist, and they were going to bring some stuff on there in that NFL power struggle. So he has to cover it. So he's kind of coddling that Prescott. He has a big offensive line. And again, you go back, it's almost like Citizen Kane. You default back to your childhood. He's defaulting back to Arkansas, and all he does is invest in that offensive line, even though he got rid of a Hall of Famer for monetary reasons. For, again, the structure. The guy has close to $50 billion, can almost buy the whole league. But he's structurally, from a finance standpoint, making sure that it's fundamentally sound and they're checking all the boxes from a logical financial standpoint, right? Cold, hard cash with those Dallas Cowboys. They'll be better next year. But the reason I think Dallas covers is because Detroit cannot show everything they have in their back pocket. They have to beat Green Bay, they have to beat Chicago, and they have to have plays in the playoffs for the 49ers to get to that Super Bowl.
I,
You're not going
I,
to show anything that big Dallas offensive line. Go ahead.
I would agree with what you're saying. Generally speaking, the reason why I like Detroit so much in this game, I also see a big coaching mismatch. You know, McCarthy has not done a very good job coaching the last couple of years. They lose big games all the time. The other thing too is if you take out some bad decisions that Detroit's coach made last year against the 49ers late in that game, they dominated the game. That game was absolutely dominated by Detroit. They should have won that game by 20 points. They have a huge talent edge too. They have a huge quarterback edge, a huge talent edge, a huge coaching edge. I think the game's low because it's at Dallas. You could be right. Dallas might get some calls from the referees. Dallas does have the ability to score. I will give them credit for that. So they could backdoor cover, but it's only 3 points. Because I like the game so much, you would say, why don't you just lay more points or whatever? I would buy down to probably 2 or 1.5 just because of the backdoor cover, just to be on the safe side, because I'm very conservative when I make plays like this. I do like the Lions though a lot in this game. The total I don't have an opinion on because I wouldn't be surprised if Detroit won this game 31-10. Okay, so I think Detroit beats the hell out of them. I just do.
I could see that happening. I see the game being 24-21 because Detroit putting that 4-2-5 defense, kind of a zone thing, kind of ability thing, keep everything in front of you. All right. Run the ball. But I think your score is right in a playoff situation. Detroit would roll Dallas in the playoffs. In an semi-early regular season game, it's not going to be the full Lions arsenal in this game. And the other thing is rotation. So let's say you have a defensive lineman, Aiden Hutchinson. He usually plays 50 snaps a game, right? He's going to play 60 to 65 snaps in a division game. And in this game on the road against Dallas, against the big physical offensive line, he might play 30, 35, 40 snaps. So it's just a coaching philosophy thing that I think will keep Dallas in the ballgame. And that big offensive line, run clock, keep the ball out of Goff and Ben Johnson, hot shot, offensive coordinator. He asked the Washington Redskins for $15 million a year. First time head coach. God bless him. All right, but yeah, there's not a call.
It could be an interesting game. Of course, I can be wrong, so it's possible. I just, like I said before, I think Detroit they look like they can score at will against Dallas's defense. Dallas's defense has just not been impressive. I don't. I mean, I could be wrong, but I like Detroit a lot in this game.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting, and that's the thing. You lay out what your philosophy is, and then you make a honest evaluation whether you're right or wrong, and then you learn, you gain knowledge. All right, last 2 games, the Bengals against the Giants. Again, 2 cheap family-owned teams. The Browns. I had a buddy of mine who worked for 5 NFL franchises. He worked for the Bengals. And I was talking shit about Marvin Lewis. He's like, what? Don't talk shit about Marvin Lewis. He has 15 jobs. He's like the head of scouting. And I thought they were changing what they are. Like Joe Burrow's going out, working out players during the draft. Very, very cheap family-owned team against the Giants. The Giants are the same way, the Morrow family. They care more about Rooney Mara's film career than they do the fans. They gave him a small Diet Coke on Fan Appreciation Day. And these are the Giants. People say, okay, we're getting divorced. You can have the kids, you can have the house. I'm keeping the Giants season tickets. Right? These are great loyal fans and the way they treat them. So Brian D-Ball, again, has a very defensive. He does the 1+1 that worked in college, won a national title with Nick Saban at Alabama, worked good with Josh Allen when he was the offensive coordinator with the Bills, but doesn't work with Daniel Jones. He's going to get Daniel Jones killed. against the Bengals. The Bengals, great coach, Zach Taylor. He played for the Callahans and Nebraska. He's doing more with less there, but they seem really depleted this year. And D-Wall is very, very organized. He can only win by running the football, doing the +1. The defensive line is playing great. The offensive line is playing great. He has to play that style, and he has to preserve his roster because he's not get quality depth. The Mars are not going to pay for that. At home in New York, big market, right? The elections are coming. The refs are definitely going to lean towards the Giants in this game. Again, I like a lot of unders. 48 is a gift. No way this game gets to 48, right? Because this is game 6, and they have 16 games to go. Cheap owners that are not paying for backups. So they're going to play zone, keep everything in front of them, and run that football, right? Devin Singletary. And then Joe Burrow, 72% completion percentage, you see here. He's playing safe, right? He's had a horrible offensive line the whole time because they don't want to pay to protect the guy. So he has to do the 3-step drops. So I'd like this game to go under. D-Ball's a great coach, national title winning coach. He's doing more with less. I like the Giants +3 under the 48. I like the more the under 48 because, like you said in that Seattle game, that's just the way he is, the way he thinks. Bill Belichick, Dick Saint philosophy. What do you think, Walter Will?
This is an interesting game. On this note, the Bengals could easily be 4-1 this year. They've had their heart broken at least 3 weeks that I can count. I mean, they really have had their heart broken, and against really good teams too. Right. So you could argue this is their breakout game, and they should rout this team. This game, though, in a weird way, teams they fire big shots, and then even though they fired a big shot and lost, the next game could still be a letdown game because let's face it, they fired their big shot. They fired a big shot at Baltimore. They fired a big shot at Kansas City, and they fell short. This could be a letdown game. They might overlook the Giants, thinking it's going to be a for sure win or a confident win because they've played so good against 2 really good teams. They might find themselves down 13, 16, nothing. To a Giants team is very disciplined, very, very close to the vest with the coach. And for that reason, I'm leaving the game alone. I'll leave it up to you in this game. I totally see why you took the Giants. Once again, it wouldn't surprise me the Giants cover and maybe even upset the Bengals. And this game, it wouldn't have surprised me the Bengals blew them out and scored a lot of points finally. And it was their breakout game. I just don't know the mindset of the team. They're talented. They have a great coach. They have a great quarterback. But they have fired some big cannon shots this year, and they've only got 1 win to show for it. It says a lot. And if they lose this game, Burrow's been pretty fragile. This is one of those games that's a turning point game for both these teams in the season, especially Cincinnati. Maybe not so much the Giants, but especially Cincinnati. They really fall out of the race if they go to 1-5. It makes their life very difficult to make the playoffs this year in that division. So I'm going to watch it. This is a game very much worth watching. I'd like to play Cincinnati. I can't. I'm afraid of the letdown. The points are a lot of points. 48 seems like a lot. But if Cincinnati were to have a breakout game, I could see them scoring a lot of points and then maybe giving up some easy points at the end of the Giants. So I'm gonna leave the total alone. I think it's a suspicious high total. It looks like it's the 48 looks like it might take the Giants 2 games to score 48 points. So the total is very curious to me. So if it doesn't look right, I'm just going to leave it alone. This game's it's a pass for me, but I would enjoy watching it, and I wish you luck on it.
Yeah, I'm just good. I think if you remember when we were kids, the team that played the Raiders or the Steelers usually lost the week after because they were so physical, right?
Yeah.
And the Bengals playing the Ravens and the whole football mafia family, they're all about physicality. And then you're going to get beat up by the Giants, right? And you don't
And,
have
and,
depth.
and an overtime game. And that
So I
game
like
took them.
the second half line. I'm going to look hard and I'll tweet it out. I'll tag you too. That second half line, the Giants against a cheap team without backup. And I'll look at the next week. I'll start looking at the participation shot where you have a safety who's playing 100% of the snaps on defense and 100% of the snaps on special teams on these cheap teams. Those guys wear down in the second half. We make money betting that second half line. So the Bengals physical game against the Ravens against the next week. People who play Steelers usually lose the next week after. I like the Giants a lot in this situation. Brian Daboll is a great coach.
He is in a physical overtime game. Don't forget that was very emotional that they blew.
But
I mean, so it's a tough game for me to get an opinion on, but I wish you well in
and the last thing you mentioned, keeping control of the locker room, right? And Al Davis had this philosophy, and the Browns kept it. They get guys with low character, with emotional issues. But when things start going south, it's hard to kind of corral those guys. So that's a big job there that the coach has in that situation. All right. McDermott. I think McDermott got lucky. My dad's a preacher, right? And there's a story in the Bible where this guy's fighting demons. And he goes, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. I rebuke you in the name of Paul. And the demons went, I know who Jesus is. I know who Paul is. Who are you? You have to be your own man. And McDermott keeps acting like his mentor, Andy Reid, right? And I think it's been a complete disaster over there. Another unscrupulous mobster type owners in the Pagulas, slumlords from Buffalo, always involved in nefarious activities, taking advantage of the passionate Buffalo Bill fan base to build them a stadium to make money. Why they digress, they can pull it off. Man, they got lucky against Johnson, the owner of the Jets, who owes the IRS $20 million. If Walter Will and I owe the IRS $20 million, we'd be in jail.
Yeah.
Robert Saleh got picked. He had never been even a coordinator because that Lynch is the one who runs the defense with the 49ers. It's plug and play. And Shanahan has everything structured with that running game to rest the defense. So with no experience, the Johnsons get the cheapest head coach available, and you got predictable results. Better yet, we make money off. Something you mentioned. Remember when the Jets were 7-3 with Zach Wilson? You knew that was going to go the other way. They lost 6 games in a row, and we bet against them 6 weeks in a row, and we won. So now they're a complete disaster. Nepotism again. Hackett's dad was good. Hackett isn't good, and it's embarrassing. Rodgers keeps them afloat. Now you got McDermott coming in there after a loss. They have clear talent advantage. They're in disarray. Ulrich, what's he going to do, right? He's a solid disciple, his friend at Michigan State. Solid really wanted to be the coach of Michigan State. He applied for it twice. They did not give it to him because he's Muslim. And they didn't know what he was going to be brewing over there in Michigan. But I digress. Because of those reasons, I like the Bills minus the 2 points. Old school Hackett West Coast offense. McDermott is a defensive guy. He's like Andy Reid. He knows his wife, he knows his kid. All he does is watch film. And I don't see the Jets really doing anything. So I like the Bills minus the 2. They lost over here Monday night last year. Bills are thinking Super Bowl. The refs are going to help them because they need the new stadium. The NFL is a commercial real estate company. And I like it under the 41 points. What do you think, Mr. Will?
Well, Mr. Will thinks this. He's not gonna overthink this game. This game to me, I think Rodgers and Saleh clearly did not get along very well. I think that the Jets are going to play quite a bit better. I think they're going to score some points. I know Buffalo's going to score some points. So I'm not going to think too much about a side in this game. I'm just going to take the over 41. I think it's a I think the line is way out of whack. I think the line should be 47 in this game. I see a 6 point differential of where the line should be, of where the line should be set at. So it's another bad line. I'm going to take advantage of it. I'm going to go over 41 with authority in this game. Monday night, Rodgers is going to want to showcase. Josh Allen's going to showcase. The NFL is going to want to showcase them. Look for some ticky-tack pass interception calls. Look for, these field goal kickers. The weather's still decent back there. All these field goal kickers are kicking field goals from 50 yards plus with great
Right,
accuracy. 41's way too low of a number. I could be, I mean, everybody says how great the Jets defense is. Look, they're, they're, they have a losing record. Okay, they had a losing record last year. They're not the 80th. They're not the Bears. They're not the Midway Giants. They're not the Steel Curtain until proven otherwise. Look at they have some great players on defense, but this is a I don't think this is a hard game to analyze. It looks like a very, very easy over to me. Period. I like the over quite a bit in this game.
right. So this is very interesting, and I like your opinion on this because this is what goes on. Uh, Offensive, these guys are all smart guys, very arrogant guys. So you have your offensive coaches. They say we can win in a shootout, right? The coach at Detroit is an offensive guy tying in. He said we can outscore, we can win in a shootout. Defensive guys like Bill Belichick, McDermott, and even Andy Reid, even though he's an offensive guy, they're like, oh, okay, let's say the defense's legs, and let's put it on the defense. Let's put our defense in an advantageous situation. Ulrich is who knows what Johnson. That's the thing. Johnson doesn't care about the football team. He cares about his business. He cares more about Formula One. I don't know how the IRS let him invest $40 million in Formula One. Adrian Robinson knows. But he doesn't. So he was in disarray. He really should have made Paul Hackett as an MBA, as a business concierge, the head coach, because he agrees with Aaron Rodgers. So Aaron Rodgers being an offensive guy says, hey, let's just get the touchdown, let's score quick. Or we're just going to say, no, don't take the touchdown. We want you to be methodical because my defense needs rest. We're going to win this with defense. So again, they did not solve the problem. They have too many cooks in the kitchen. Robert Saleh was a defensive guy at Michigan State with D'Antoni, and then he goes with Lynch, defensive guy, and Shanahan, who's a football guru that his dad believes in running the ball, keeping that defense fresh. So who's going to win that argument in New York, and how the dynamics going to work out, or is there still going to be turmoil, Mr. Will?
Well, Saleh really didn't want the Michigan State job, and they should have given it to him.
Right.
They really should have. The reasons why they didn't, you're probably right. Were based on his beliefs, unfortunately, but that's what it looks like to me. And not to be political, but why wouldn't you give him the job? He wasn't a good fit for the Jets. He's not a good fit for Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
And Aaron Rodgers, I think, because of the mindset of what the overall game plan is going to be, is going to have a lot more latitude in this game to play like Aaron Rodgers plays, off the cuff, changing plays at scrimmage, doing what he wants to do.
Right.
And it's going to generate some points. And it might even generate some points for the Bills too. He might throw a pick six. There's a lot of things that are going to happen. Josh Allen could throw a pick six too. He's known to make a mistake or two. When you look at these low number games of totals, people always say, "Oh, well, can the offense score? Can the offense score?" Well, you know what? You got two highly volatile quarterbacks. The defense can score 6 points as well, and you have to take that into an account. Of everybody says, there's stories of a bad beat. Bad beats. Bad beats happen because people get backdoored on pick sixes. People get backdoored on pass interferences. People get backdoored on all sorts of ways on a bad beat. There's too many variables in this game for me to take the underside, and too many variables on the overside to take the over. So the over to me is an overwhelming stack of algorithms that lead to the fact that I just see that 41 is a horrible line to try to play under. I think it's a bad line. I think it's 6 points off. I'm gonna, like I said before, I'm playing the over in this game with authority.
And there's the one thing about listening. People talk about listening. You listen to understand. You listen to us to understand, not to argue with us. You can't argue with us. You can't challenge us. We're not God. We're not omnipresent. But listen first to what we're saying before you start arguing. Uh, Mr. Wilkins, this man on the over in this game, right? Average score in an NFL game is 45. They know each other. They're game planning for each other. Rodgers is a Hall of Fame quarterback. Uh, Josh Allen can work himself to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. And really, they should just make Aaron Rodgers the offensive coordinator. It's funny, this guy running for president in Mexico was like, oh, we should make the cartel part of the cabinet. They make decisions, right? So he's making the decisions. Just make him the offensive coordinator, right? And just bring in some guy with a clipboard who calls plays and whatever, does research.
Yes, man. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what Hackett is. And Hackett doesn't look right to me. It's like not in the right place, right? And then you we'll look at the key leaders there. Again, where Salah messed up, he's supposed to be a disciplined guy, and he's letting Garrett act crazy on the sidelines. If you're going to be a disciplined guy, you can't have that kind of outward decision. Alan Lazard is there for Rodgers. He puts him in the right play, right? Garrett Wilson. So I don't see that ton of talent. That offensive line with the Jets, old veterans, they'll be good early in the season, but they don't have depth for late. So they're going to be fine in this game. And I changed my mind. I listened to what Mr. Will said, and he has been successful at this for decades for a reason. And I'm going to use that to make money this weekend, picking the over on Monday Night Football. Bills -2, over 41. All right.
All right.
Last words, Mr. Will. Very exciting week. This is a good week. Excited for at the end of the month, the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, we'll be doing you and I will be going over the 2-day event. Multiple races worth $1 million up to $6 million and $10 million or more. Large fields of horses, meaning lots of betting opportunities, meaning that you can turn a little bit of money into a lot of money really quickly on either day or on just one race. It's like, the Kentucky Derby is one of the biggest racing days of the year. A lot of people make a lot of money on that race because there's a lot of, factors and variables that go into gambling, and all the intangibles that, there's superfectas, trifectas. There's a lot of ways to make money. Exactas, exotic wagering. So imagine the Kentucky Derby, but imagine having basically 14 races like the Kentucky Derby in 2 days that you're going to have fields, and you can, you can't afford not to play because the payout's too big to not try it. It's just too big of a payout, too big of a 2-day event not to put plays in. It's worth the money. How about that?
Absolutely. And horse racing has been a big part of Western culture for a long time. I wanted to learn it 5 years ago, and I've been learning, been doing the big races, the Triple Crown races, and then the peripheral around sport, horse racing been very, very interesting. And met a lot of great people. So it's always better to be lucky than good. And I got Mr. Will to help me with the Breeders' Cup, man. I am so fortunate to deepen my knowledge and deepen the audience knowledge as we all go in together, win this together. There's two ways of doing things, right? You got the Parcells Bell Sheet way. You got the Tony Dungy good guy way. We go more to the Tony Dungy side, and we share information. And man, have I gotten this phenomenal information from the audience that I could never even imagine, right? Because when you give one, you always get 10 back. And like Winston Churchill said, you make a living from your labor. But before I close, Mr. Will, let us know where people can buy your book so they can get more knowledge, and where they can find you and all your social media information.
Okay, yeah, the book is available everywhere. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, any bookstore. It's available wherever you want to order it, online or in stores. You can order the book everywhere. It's doing very well. It's actually we're still getting momentum on the book, getting a lot of momentum on the book actually. So good news on that. And then
Awesome.
The Yellow Pinto at Instagram. I believe that's what the Instagram is. I don't control my Instagram. My publicist does.
Yeah, I'll
But
have all the links there, and I'll have a link to your book, and
yeah,
I'll keep. We'll talk afterwards. I'll keep having your link on there, man, to get those numbers up. I love
thank
seeing
you. I appreciate it.
those numbers. Yeah,
And then look forward to our next meeting. Thank you very much.
absolutely. Thank you so much, man. Really need it after a really good week like last week. You need help the next week, right? To keep that consistency, because that's how you make that big profit is being consistent week in and week out. And like Winston Churchill said in fireside chats during World War II, salesmen think short term, businessmen and women think long term. Long term thinking is higher level thinking. So you make a living from your labor, but you make a life from what you give. Thank you for listening to the SBC